So, I admit this is a complete mistake on my part. I'm sure some of you have noticed by now, of course, the new intro. I want to give huge thanks to Kay, one of my regular viewers. He's been one of my regular viewers for years now. He's the one who put together the model and the design and on the animation for the intro. I did a couple other parts of it, but he did that part, and I couldn't have done that part without him. So I wanted to give huge thanks to Kay. Thank you. Sorry about the delay in thanking you. I kind of completely spaced thanking you in the previous few episodes that I recorded today because I've been trying to churn these out as best as I can. So I apologize. So I don't. I know you guys are like, oh my god, I'm sick of these short episodes. So I bothered to put together a topic talking about other topics today that are related to this episode that I want to kind of toss at you. Even though I feel they're actually better served elsewhere. You know, I know you guys are super angry at me and hate me forever for having these really super short episodes. So, without further ado, let's talk about average. Now, as I said before, season 6 is kind of an average season. They started off with a bang, just like 3 really great episodes right off the bat, and then it just was kind of like, eh. And most of the rest of the season will be basically a 5 out of 10. There's not really a lot of super amazing stuff. There's not really a lot of stuff that pushes the boundaries. There's not really a lot of great, but there's also not really a lot of terrible. There's no real episodes I can think of off the top of my head, anyways, in season 6 that strike me as bad. So the good thing about average, it's actually the McDonald's effect. Hear me out, okay? You know what the good thing is about McDonald's? This could also be called the Walmart effect. The good thing is you know what you're getting. You go to a McDonald's, you order double quarter pounder with cheese. You know what you're getting. You go to a McDonald's in Connecticut. You go to a McDonald's in Florida. You go to a McDonald's in California. Obviously, this is only true in the States, from my knowledge. You're getting the same basic product pretty much no matter where you go. It's the same kind of thing with Walmart. You go into a Walmart in a completely different state, it's probably going to have the same layout as all the other Walmarts you've been in, with a couple of variances. So there's like 3 or 4 layouts of Walmarts that I've seen here in the States, across many different states. And, you know, you have a pretty good idea of where you're going based on that. That's the good thing about being average, because when you're average, you can be reliable, dependable, repeatable. You could sit down and turn your mind off and have a decent hour of television and just kind of relax and enjoy yourself. And let's make this clear. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with being the guy who just wants to unwind and watch a fun show. Now, as you might imagine, I kind of prefer my television to be a little bit more than that. I prefer to have a more unique flavor of like an individual restaurant or, you know, someplace of higher quality than McDonald's when it comes to that. I can endure McDonald's and I appreciate it for what it is, but when I sit down to watch Star Trek, I want the inner light. You know, I want the one that starts with a P that I can never think of the name of. My favorite episode ever. I can't think of it. Wow. You know, I want best of both worlds. I want the measure of a man. Because that's what I enjoy in Star Trek. I enjoy it making me think. I enjoy it making me feel. I enjoy really delving into it and just having lots of meat to the episode there. However, the downside of that is obvious. You can't reliably, repeatably, dependably be that great. You can't. You're going to have bad spots. You're going to miss the mark. When you are being risky, when you are trying new things, when you're trying new ideas, invariably those ideas will fail, because that's the whole point of new ideas, risky ideas. You are failing. And I just realized I should do something here really quick. There we go. Just to make sure. So this is the good and the bad of average, which is what I wanted to talk about, and why I look at Season 6, and I enjoy Season 6. In fact, I enjoy Season 6 and 7, too, the rest of Voyager. But it is very average for good and for bad. There are several points in this episode, just like they were in the previous few episodes, where it feels like they're just kind of going through the motions. They have a few good points. Like let's take this episode, for example. There's a really good core kernel episode here, and it's all about Neelix, and it's all about Tuvok, okay? Or Nuvok, as I've heard some people call him in this episode. And I really like that. And I'll talk more in depth about it as we go through this. But then it's got this weird random sub-B plot of not really helpful, that literally just feels completely formulaic and is entirely designed to go up against the bad guys of the week, who happen to completely outclass Voyager and are a threat to them, and they have to talk their way out of the situation by offering to own up and be like, yes, you can take all the research. It's like, it's just the only thing that's missing is a technobabble solution, and even that is debatable because they kind of technobabble their way into finding them in the first place. It's not the worst, but it's extremely average. So this was directed by Roxanne Dawson, B'Elanna Torres, and I do think she did a good job of the directing on this. She did a really nice job of pulling emotion out of certain scenes and doing some good camera angles with certain scenes, which again I'll mention later. Martin Rush was the gentleman who pretty much held her hand throughout all this. For those of you who don't know, he's the director of photography. Has been since about TNG Season 3, give or take. He's been doing some stuff before then and since then, of course. Long-standing member of the community and the developers of Star Trek. And great guy, very talented. And he was apparently very understanding and very encouraging of her to try to do different things. In her own words, she came down there like, yeah, you know how when you first try a thing, you think, I'm going to do it amazing. I'm going to do this great thing because I have all these ideas and no one's ever tried those ideas before, right? And then you try it and then you learn from your mistakes and then you either flop or try to actually become good over time. According to her, she felt like she flopped in this one, but she learned from her mistakes. And given the fact that she will be directing stuff in the future of Star Trek, I think that's a fair statement. I just want to pause for a moment and give absolutely huge props to Tim Russ and to Ethan Phillips. They nail it in this episode. Some of the best performances I've seen from both of them ever. Legit. Excuse me. I have another topic to help flesh out the duration of this episode. Don't worry, I feel like it's something we're talking about, because I don't think I've really covered this before. Feel free to yell at me in the comments if I have covered this topic before. The idea of why actors usually have those directing clauses written into their contracts. There's a lot of ifs, ands, whys, and buts as to why this happens. The general idea is twofold. First of all, it's part of adding to the resume, basically. Getting them career experience in things they otherwise wouldn't. So that's one of the reasons why several, that's why you see, now this is I've said this before, this is the episode McNeil got to direct. This is the episode that, Tim Russ got to direct, etc., etc. And some actors don't really take to directing, which is logical. I mean, directing really is a different mindset than acting. But some actors really take to directing. LeVar Burton and Jonathan Frakes both come to mind immediately as very talented directors who really know what they're doing and really wouldn't have gotten that jump point if not for this kind of program. And Star Trek is not the only show that did this. This is actually a very common thing for actors to have, you get to direct such and such episodes, or they have like a directing rotation built into the SAG. Or not the SAG, the Actors Guild. I can't think of what it's properly called. Maybe it is the SAG, the Screen Actors Guild. I don't remember off the top of my head. I'm kind of tired. But it's built in. I mean, anytime there's an interruption in that, they actually have to work their way around it because it's such an issue and because they want to make sure they're adhering to the contracts and whatnot. The other reason, the other conceit with why that happens is because the general idea is that an actor has first-hand experience. So you don't allow an actor to direct immediately. You use directors to do that. But then later on, after an actor's had some experience on the show they're working on, the general impression is that they will have a better feel for coordinating with the other actors on the show and how the show should be presented in general. And sometimes this does work out and sometimes it really doesn't. But for the most part, I feel Star Trek really did pretty well with the actors getting to direct thing. You'll notice Roxanne Dawson, B'Elanna Torres, is not in this episode in any functional manner. And that's specifically because she kind of took herself out of it so she could focus solely on what is effectively her first big directing gig. Understandable. Actually, it takes a certain kind of a mindset to be a director in a work you are acting in. And again, I point to Jonathan Frakes for a good example of that. Moving on. So, first of all, now that we get to the episode proper, my first thoughts, they have an ambassador's log now. But that's not actually surprising. What I am amused by is the idea that Neelix actually is in every way that matters, an official ambassador. Like, that's his title. And so he actually does have an ambassador's log. Yeah, nothing else to say there. I hate to gripe. I really do. But I mentioned how this episode's kind of average in its overall premise. We did this episode already. It was called Rise. Remember that? It's the episode where Neelix and Tuvok bonded, and the two gained a greater understanding and respect for each other. No? Well, how about Tuvix? The episode where Neelix and Tuvok bonded a little more literally in that one, and had to be separated at the end by medical procedure that they weren't really willing to do all that much. No? Okay. Should I be crass and point out that this is the third time? Oh yeah, spoiler alert, by the way. This is the third time they've had the opportunity to really do something with Tuvok's character, and they've looked at that reset button and they panicked. Oh god, they started having asthma attacks on the spot because they couldn't stand the idea of not smashing the reset button at the end of the episode. So bam, and then they hit the reset button at the end of the episode, and I hate that. I hate it. They've done this 3 times, counting this episode with Tuvok. Remember how I gave my idea of how I would have kept Tuvix around for a bit? At the very least, for several episodes. Have that have impact. Have that have meaning. Don't just suddenly, and everything's back to normal, all giddy day at the end of the episode. That robs so much of the emotional significance, of the actual significance in general. It feels like it's just like, oh man, I got a bruise. But it's okay, because it'll be gone by the end of the episode, because it's a bruise. It doesn't matter, right? That's what I feel like these things are. This is why I get so upset about this crap. This is the opposite of continuity. It's not about the fact that this particular episode happened on this exact star date and it was in this sector. That can be continuity, but that's not what I'm talking about when I say continuity. That's flavor. That's stuff that helps add to real continuity. Real continuity is a character changing in an episode and staying changed. I talked about this already with the episode Real Life. I got pissed at the episode Real Life because of this exact same thing. How bold would it have been to take Tuvok and have him stay in his new persona? What have we seen in the episodes leading up to this? We've seen the beginning of a bold new character arc for Seven, the beginning of a bold new character arc for B'Elanna Torres. What was the next one after that? The beginning of a not particularly interesting, but nevertheless, arc for the Doctor. And a boring, dull episode I don't even feel like mentioning. It's one of my shortest Voyager Ruminations ever. And now we have the possibility of a brand new, bold, interesting character arc with Tuvok. They could have replaced cold, emotionless, logical Tuvok. You know, one of the best, if not, I'd say second best overall Vulcan presentation I've ever seen across the whole franchise, personally. Keeping in mind Spock is not Vulcan. So second best Vulcan presentation I've ever seen. After Sarek, if you're wondering. And they turned him into this new character, and Tim Russ nails the role. He does a great job of the, well, let's just say it what it is, the Romulan. He does a great job of portraying a Romulan. And they could have taken that and run with it. They could have even had him slowly shift from Romulan back to Vulcan as he slowly relearns his things. Or they could have kept him a Romulan. Wouldn't that have been interesting? What was the big point of that one scene? Oh, by the way, you notice there's a Seven Learns a Lesson scene in this episode. It's minor, and it's not as copy-paste as some of the other ones. Like, we'll be seeing a real doozy of a one soon. But there's a scene where she tells Neelix, and she teaches Neelix, basically, the lesson that she learned. The idea that the thing that I already told you, her character arc that's already completed, a.k.a. she is not Borg, she is not human. She is Seven, the new being, right? And that she was not regressing to Borg, and she was not regressing into human. She was being encouraged to be her new self. And that was that big lesson, and Neelix encouraged Tuvok to be his new self. And there was this big undercurrent of that. And then at the end, they just smashed that reset button as hard as they can. Why? You even had the big message of the episode. The big theme of this episode was the idea of accepting who and what you are. And they threw it out the window. Why? Why? I could just stop the rumination here, but I do have a few other things to talk about. So I do like the bookends of the riddle. The fact that he was eating dates from the calendar, and the fact that he was eating Sundays from the calendar. That's actually pretty clever. The teaser is 3 minutes and 30 some odd seconds long. It's a very long teaser. Not the longest ever, but it's up there. And I say that because it kind of goes back to that whole average complaint I mentioned earlier. It's not all that engaging. It doesn't really catch me. I get immediately that this is a Neelix and Tuvok episode, but my first thought upon seeing that is not cool character stuff. It's, oh, rise again. Because again, we've already done the Neelix Tuvok thing, and they kind of finished that character arc, and they do, in fairness, take it into a new direction, but it was not a particularly good teaser to sell me on the episode. I like the alien Mulder. I don't even remember the character's name. The guy who plays the alien, who's, oh, I'm going to hunt down these super secret aliens. The Mulder. And I call him Mulder for three reasons. One, because he's super enthusiastic about something no one else believes in. Two, because he's always right. And three, because he's a little over-enthusiastic about it. He's definitely one of those, I just want to prove the truth kind of a situation people. I mean, the thing at the end really showed that, where he's like, I'm willing to give up the ability to ever find you again if you help us out with this kind of a thing. Because for him, it wouldn't really matter. He already knew the truth, after all. He knew. So I liked his presentation. That was good. So I just want to give, once again, huge props to Ethan Phillips and Tim Russ. Ethan Phillips, Neelix, clearly, demonstrably, in a very quiet, subtle way, shows how absolutely devastated he is by what happened to Tuvok and how responsible he feels for it. And in so many ways. The thing he says most of the ways he feels responsible, but the one thing he never says, and I like the fact that he never says this, is the one thing I feel really shines most about his performance. You can see in his portrayal that he feels guilty that he drove Tuvok to the back room. Tuvok would have never gone back there and never been attacked by these aliens if he hadn't been so annoying as to drive Tuvok away. And that kills him. That just grates at his soul. And you can tell in the quiet way he speaks and his mannerisms and the fact that he just, the moment he realizes he can do something, anything to help, he just flings all of himself into it, abandons everything else just so he could focus on this because, oh my God. And we do know Neelix and Tuvok are friends. Yes, really. And it's pretty obvious, especially by this episode, that Neelix very much treasures that friendship with Tuvok. So in no way do I think he took that lightly at all. I also very much like that Neelix is the only one who actually treats Tuvok appropriately before he starts speaking. It's no wonder Tuvok bonds with him personally, because everyone else is like, hey, I kept the bridge ready for you, acting as if he's a fully functional person. Neelix is the only one acting as if he's, and let's put it how it is, a child who is relearning things, being introduced to ideas in a simple manner, a very, very, very fragile mental state that's just barely beginning to understand concept like communication. You don't take someone like that and show them a freaking security station. That's stupid. No, you take them, you show them around, give them a bit of a tour. You talk to them in a soothing, calm voice. You tell them it's okay. Things are going to be okay. I'm going to be here for you. You will not be hurt. And that's what Neelix does. He does the right thing with that. Good job. Very good job on that. I have a note here that says that the simple humanity of this episode sells a very, very weak plot. I do like this episode. I called it average, but in truth, if I was actually doing a 1 to 10 scale, this would be above average, because the scenes about Tuvok, I keep wanting to call him Nuvok, the scenes between Tuvok and Neelix are great. They are pure gold. There's so much simple, down-to-earth humanity in them that I honestly feel the whole episode could be just about that. Eject the B-plot with the bad guys of the week and the threat to the ship, just throw it out the window. It doesn't really add anything, in my opinion, other than a way to hammer that reset button. Instead, I love the simple dynamic between Tuvok and Tom and Harry and Seven and Janeway and, of course, Neelix. There's such wonderful chemistry on display there. And Tim Russ absolutely nailed it. I hate to keep praising him, but damn. The thing that he discovers, they try to introduce him to things that he used to be good at, and he rejects them because he is frustrated at the fact that he used to be good at them and he is not anymore, which is different than not being good at something. There's the reason the term has been exists, let me ask you a question. How would you feel if you just kind of found out that you've lost a part of yourself, and that previous part of yourself was basically better in every way? He was smarter, or he or she was smarter and stronger and more logical and just understood so many things, and you're having trouble doing a simple puzzle game. How would you feel? And so it's a different frustration than I can't figure out this puzzle. It's I should be able to figure out this puzzle and I can't. I used to be able to figure out this puzzle and I can't. I myself have had this problem. I've kind of gotten over this nowadays, but in years previous, and some of my viewers have seen this, I would go back to play games that I played when I was much younger, that I just would wreck when I was younger. And now I'm having a much harder time of it. And it's much more frustrating than if I was playing the game for the first time and having a hard time of it. Because I knew I had this, I've done this before, and now I'm failing. Failing myself in addition to failing in general. Make sense? And yet the simple embracing of the things he liked, the things he was good at, like cooking. He was even creative when it came to cooking. It wasn't just baking and putting together a recipe. He tried new stuff, and it worked out. And I like that. He tried sculpting, and that worked out, and I like that. There is such a wonderful down-to-earth, just right down there on the base level humanity to this episode, and it really helps flesh out the episode so much more than it ever should have been. Unfortunately, that is all I have to share. My next few notes I've already covered. The Seven learns a lesson and the reset button. Oh my god, what I would give to go back and redo Voyager. I would like to ask you guys a question, legit. Hopefully this has been a slightly longer episode. I'm not looking at the clock. I don't know. I'll find out when I edit this. But I have a genuine question for you guys. Would you have liked it if Tuvok continued? Even if it was only for several episodes, even if it took him a while to slowly relearn his logic and reassert that and have that be an undercurrent arc of his character as he slowly has to decide basically if he wants to keep reasserting that mental discipline or if he wants to embrace the new him and all the dynamics of that, expanding more on his relationship with Janeway, his long-standing friend, expanding on his relationship with his professional relationship with Chakotay, doing more with that. What would you have thought about that? And please don't give me the we need the tactical officer thing. That's a solvable problem. We could throw a random extra on there, and we've done it before. I want to know what you would have thought about the character arc doing that with Tuvok. So let me know. For now, I'm gonna go. I'll see you next week, guys.